The family scapegoat. I have heard so many stories from people about the way that they were scapegoated by their families to be the bad one, the one who had all the problems, the one that was the reason that the family was dysfunctional, or the reason that the family looked bad, or the reason that the family didn't get along, or the reason that the relationship was bad. I mean, all kinds of things. The one who didn't get the attention, who didn't get the gifts, who didn't get the inheritance, who didn't get the family's time, the one who was always the problem, the one that everyone in the family ganged up against. And why does this happen? Why is it that there's a scapegoat? When families are a system, they are a system that either works together well or works together not so well. So when they work well, they're healthy. When they don't work well, they're dysfunctional. Dysfunction means not functional. So it's not working well, but they still work. They're still a system. They have to, because they have to function together as a unit, even though it's kind of messed up. So what families have to do is they've got to, if they don't want to admit what their problems are and they don't want to deal with them, then they have to figure out what to do with anything that, any kind of tension, any kind of stress, any kind of thing that's not working. The problems need to be put somewhere. So they'll pick one person in the family and they'll actually scapegoat that person. They'll actually say, well, it's because of Jen. It's because of John. If John were a better kid, if John were nicer, if John were better to the siblings, if John were only able to do what he should do, or if Jen was only able to do what she should do, if she didn't do this, then we would be okay. They want to look good. The family doesn't want to admit the problems they have. They want to be able to say, we're okay, but there's something about them that's not okay. So they've got to put it somewhere. And where they put it is on this one person that the family chooses to pick on. This scapegoat may never be acknowledged as for the good that they do. They may never be appreciated. They may never be noticed for anything other than accused of doing wrong, or they might be the one that's ignored or the one that's treated less than. Sometimes grandparents do this, where grandparents pick a favorite grandchild or favorite grandchildren, and then they have one that they don't like. Oftentimes I've seen it where it's that child that was the parent that these grandparents weren't good, that child of theirs that they scapegoated, and then they automatically scapegoat the children of the adult child that they scapegoated. And I've even seen it be passed down to the grandchildren of that child, to where that they would not treat them right. So this is a family system issue. It is not something that you've done wrong. It doesn't mean that there's something defective about you, although it can be really painful to be in a family where you are scapegoated, where the parents care about the health and the feelings and the needs of one child, and they don't care about the health and the needs and the feelings of the other child. So what is it about the child that they can care about, or that they don't scapegoat, that is different than the other one? It has nothing to do with that child's worth or that child's position necessarily. It is something going on in the other person that causes that person to need to scapegoat. And the reason that they're picking the child that they do to scapegoat, the reason is all within them. It could be that their parent scapegoated them, and now that parent being female is going to scapegoat the female child, or that parent being a male is going to scapegoat the male child. So it sort of passes on generationally, that we do to our kids what was done to us, and then we automatically do to the grandkid of that kid when we don't acknowledge the parent of that kid. Sometimes we have a tendency to pass on those same feelings. Scapegoating is super dysfunctional. It's unhealthy. If you're being scapegoated, if you recognize that's the role that you've played in your family, and I've even seen where the siblings will gang up all the way through that person's adulthood, and then even treat that person's children the same way that they treated their sibling, just because that's the family dynamic, and the family just continues doing the same thing. If you're being scapegoated, I want you to recognize it. Recognize that that is the dynamic that's going on in your family. Recognize how that happened, how it affected you. Recognize that you didn't necessarily do anything to cause them to treat you that way. Recognize how it's still going on in your life. And then as you work through that, figure out, do you need to set some boundaries? I have seen some people that have finally come to the conclusion, look, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't allow myself to be mistreated now that I'm an adult and I'm married, and especially since this is impacting my children. I knew one family who that child was always given less than the other siblings, almost like a male Cinderella, not given as many gifts, not given attention, not given as much money, not given as much time. And then his children were the same. They were treated and given less than the other grandchildren, less gifts, less time, less attention, less acknowledgement. And his wife was also treated that way in the family. And he began to realize that his children noticed and that they were affected, and they could sit and watch their other cousins getting more than them for no reason other than this parent had scapegoated their parent, or the grandparent had scapegoated these kids' parent. So they would recognize, you know what, it's not okay. Now it's affecting my kids. I can't allow it to affect my spouse and my kids. So I need to make a decision not to go around the family. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you can just make an adjustment and detach, recognizing it's not about you. And then you can still go around the family. Sometimes you have to make a more difficult choice. So if you've been a scapegoat, I would ask you, do you need to remove yourself or just set some boundaries? Or maybe just respond differently and recognize that it's not about you. But if you've been a part of scapegoating somebody in your family, ouch, that hurts for me to ask you that question, then what do you need to do to change it and make it right? Because you can change your behavior. Where this whole idea of a scapegoat came from is in Leviticus 16, 6 through 10. And it says, and this is what God told them to do. He said, Aaron is to offer the bull for his own sin offering to make atonement for himself and his household. Then he is to take the 2 goats and present them before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of the meeting. He is to cast lots for the 2 goats, one lot for the Lord and the other for a scapegoat. Aaron shall bring the goat whose lot falls to the Lord and sacrifice it for a sin offering. But the goat chosen by lot as the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord to be used for making atonement by sending it into the wilderness as a scapegoat. So the goat going into the wilderness was to carry the sins of the people away from the camp as the scapegoat, which is what the family scapegoat is kind of doing. So thank you for watching this video on Change My Relationship, and I hope that it has given you some insight.